Welcome back to the podcast you always needed. I am your host, Sean Heshmatpour, also known as Sheshin on the internet. I'm going to get right into this today because I wasn't even honestly planning on making an episode this week, but I felt but it didn't feel right to not speak up about what is going on in America right now. So today for episode 4, I do want to talk about not only just the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I want to talk about what has led up to this moment and why America and the Western world is at where they're at now. You know, this issue right now is not just about Republican versus Democrat anymore. It really isn't. This raises attention on good versus evil. Now, do I believe that all Democrats are evil? No, I do not. I truly do not fucking believe that. But in this current part of American history, the people who label themselves as left, and I'm not talking about moderate Democrats, moderate liberals who are left-leaning. I'm talking about the culture of this liberal Democratic Party. Over the past 10 years have been them projecting their wounds and their own traumas onto the collective, onto the Western world to weaken us as a nation. And when I say evil, guys, that's really where I'm coming from here. When I say evil, I truly don't believe that these are all bad people, regardless of the sickening celebrations I'm seeing online, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, in response to the death of Charlie Kirk. I know deep down in my heart, even though it's so fucking hard for me to say out loud right now, but I know deep down in my heart that these are very, very hurt people who have been manipulated by the media for the past 10 years. And that's what I mean when I say evil. I mean hurt people. I mean people who are hurt. So when I use the term evil on the show today, I want you to remember that when I use the word evil, I am specifically talking about the fact that they are hurt. They're broken. They have unprocessed trauma. You know, for the past 10 years, this whole woke movement has really been the media, the people who follow the media that is backed by the Democratic Party. It's been them trying to silence people, especially a lot of men, with opposing beliefs by banning them from social media platforms for a while because of quote-unquote hate speech, getting people fired from their jobs, starting the rise of cancel culture, and ruining a lot of people's reputations over the past 10 years, all in the name of disagreement, attacking anybody that doesn't fit their narrative of what they believe is true. And it's now gotten to a point where somebody who has been worthy of a healthy debate, healthy discussions, has been shot and killed and can't be with his family anymore, all in the name of silencing those with opposing beliefs. That is just wrong. That is terrible. That is not what America is all about. In this episode, I'm not here to attack liberals themselves, but I want to show you good versus evil. I want to show you this battle that is going on and what has led to this battle to this day, and some of the dark energy that is going on in the world right now. I want to do my best to explain it, share some personal stories as well with my experience with this dark energy, and to also share a little bit of my knowledge on the subconscious mind and how that works, that has played into this evil that has gone on in the world today. And again, when I mean evil, I just mean unprocessed pain. And really to shine light using the spiritual values, to shine light on the darkness that has overtaken our Western society. The assassination that happened to Charlie Kirk in Utah happened because these groups of people who label themselves as liberal simply do not like the fact that, again, as someone with a strong political opinion who has the space to debate respectfully and to create open discussion, has created such a strong movement over the past few years on what is wrong with the liberals nowadays, with the Democrats nowadays. You know, Charlie Kirk spread a lot of light onto why some of these belief systems that the Democrats hold are very toxic to our nation right now. And look, America will always have problems. It always has, and it always will, just like any other nation, just like any other country. But it's our duty as people, no matter what side you lean on, Republican or Democrat, to create a space where society can debate these issues respectfully, without fear of being murdered, without fear of getting your job taken away from you, without harming the reputation of others over opposing beliefs. Even if you believe that the opposing party is quote unquote toxic, everyone has a fair space to share. So I want to talk about here why I'm shining light on this darkness that currently resides in the Democratic Party, this collective culture that the liberals carry. Again, liberalism itself as an ideology is not bad. I'm going to get to that later. But it's the culture, it's the ideologies that come with that has been very evil, very toxic, very painful, very destructive to our society. As some of you guys know who are listening to this podcast, I used to be a live streamer on Twitch from 2015 to 2020. That's about 5 years of being a part of that community that is dominantly liberal. I was a Twitch streamer. You know, I would host a lot of comedy shows, gaming shows, talk shows, IRL streams, and made a lot of friends there, had a good time while I was there. But there was a lot of issues in that space. Now, being the naive guy that I was in my 20s and just following inherently what I thought was good at the time, I gave a lot of people who were openly liberal with strong opinions and, you know, very easily to get triggered and upset. Even some of the stereotypical liberals with the pink and rainbow hair and the LGBTQ plus folks, a space to feel included, because I thought that was the right thing to do at the time. Even though the core of my belief systems were moderate, that lean more conservative, you know, inherently I thought, okay, be nice, be cool, don't judge, do your best to be open, and just allow people to feel included in the space that I create. And the main core of the community that I held had similar beliefs as me, very moderate. Some of them lean more left, some of them lean more right. But of course, there was a lot of people who were just plain liberal who would hang out in my streams. And I would include them on game nights, Discord calls, community chat rooms, treated them like any other person. But since at the end of the day, I held a comedy stream, it was a stream dedicated around joking around, having a good time, fucking around with the boys, gaming. When jokes would get a bit too offensive, it would oftentimes get into straight turmoil, a lot of drama. A lot of people started voicing their opinions, you know, and I also saw streamers on Twitch that I highly respected and was really entertained by get canceled for clips that were out of context. And whenever people who were liberal, which again was most of the people on that platform, would get upset with me or upset about an ongoing issue that a streamer said that went viral, I'd always like to make an effort to learn more about them. Even though I had my opinions, I still wanted to make an effort to learn about, especially the social political beliefs as well, like the stuff they would call racism or misogynistic or fascism or Nazi behavior. I wanted to learn, you know, but it was very hard for me to learn from those people because I'd always get guilted, shamed, angry responses when I would ask questions, which never really created the room for learning. But eventually I did have some friends that leaned more liberal in the social area of politics at the time. And I got to learn a lot from them. I learned about systematic racism. I learned about the issues that women go through for their safety and understanding more about mental health. And I'm very grateful for those people who are always willing to have open discussions with me and were down to share their opinions from a mature place and still respected me for who I am in the process of doing that. Anyways, fast forward to now 2020. I started getting into personal development at this point, subconscious reprogramming, spirituality, inner work, because I, at the time, had some mental health issues of my own that therapy was just not working. So I got into the space, started consuming a lot of content, started working on my health, going to the gym every single day, and just really diving into healing, spirituality, consciousness, elevating more of who I am and letting go of my conditioning. And it's now the foundation of my practice and the business that I have today. So I started getting deeper into these topics on my live stream and talking about it on Twitter at the time. I still talk about it on Twitter to this day. But because I was just so happy that I was learning these things and I wanted to share them with people, especially in a space where people were always constantly talking about their bad mental health. And it was just like, sometimes it would be a downer having to hear about it on my live stream. As much as I did my best to keep the place positive, it was just, I could see it. I could see a lot of the negativity due to poor mental health. And as someone who loves to elevate others and to be good to others, I thought it'd be a good idea to share all the stuff that I was learning. I would discuss about how a lot of our political division could be healed by reprogramming our subconscious mind and learning spiritual values, and how ownership and accountability of our own traumas is actually a healthy thing to do. And we don't have to blame, and we don't have to shame other people, and we don't have to be a victim. And this is what elevates our own mental health, and how we don't always have to put a label on these mental illnesses that doctors are so quick to diagnose us all with. I mean, I love this stuff so much. It's my passion. Like I said, it's the foundation of my business. It's the foundation of the practice that I help people with. 2 months, guys, 2 months of subconscious reprogramming work with my first mentor. I threw my Adderall in the garbage can. I mean, I thought I had ADHD at the time, and I never needed the Adderall ever again. I was diagnosed with ADHD, just believed it. And then as I started waking up to the fact that our brain is programmed based off of our experiences in life and a lot of the conditioning that society heavily puts on us, it was very freeing to know that there's nothing wrong with me. And I wanted to share that with the people that were watching my live stream. So anyways, the people who started watching who were watching my channel started hearing a lot of the stuff that I was sharing from a very loving place, started booing in the chat rooms. They started spamming the sleeping emojis in the chat rooms, getting bored. They just wanted me to drink and tell jokes and say fucked up shit or play video games on stream. And as I was sharing a lot of this stuff on Twitter, a lot of the predominantly liberal communities on Twitch started calling me a conspiracy theorist, tone deaf. They were saying that the stuff that I was talking about was very dangerous. I was even called misogynistic at one point for explaining how the masculine feminine dynamics work in relationships. I mean, God, it was fucking awful. I even had this one woman that I invited on a live stream. I didn't know she was going to act crazy, but she got blackout drunk on my stream and started calling me names. And God, I was just at that point, I was just like, God, something's got to change. And I think it's time for me to just stop this live streaming crap altogether. I started growing out of it. I knew I was made for something way better than that. So I ended up launching my own business at the August of 2021. And then I specialized it for men's healing and empowerment by 2022, holiday season of 2022. So look, I share this all just to share first my own personal experience with dealing with liberals online. Again, I'm not hating on Democrats as a whole. This is about good versus evil. And right now, evil, and again, when I say evil, I mean unprocessed pain, culturally, with what's going on in the world right now, predominantly exists with a lot of people who label themselves as Democrat right now in this time of American history. This can change. It has changed before. There's been plenty of times in American history where Republicans have different values than they do today. Democrats have different values than they do today. This is no different. It's just a part of American history playing out again here in the present moment in 2025. And I always maintain my composure around them. I never argued with them back in a sense where I didn't resort to name calling or yelling or, calling them terrible names, because I understand a lot of them are hurt. A lot of them, especially those LGBTQ folks, I mean, they were called very horrible names probably growing up. A lot of them were kind of shunned by their families. It's awful. It really is awful. But you can't have open conversations with people who choose to be stuck in their own trauma and project hate. It's just, at a certain point, you can't have a conversation with those people. I feel bad, but it is what it is. So I want to get into the definition of liberal right now after I have shared some of my own personal experiences. And there's so many more detailed stories I can share. Maybe I can share them on another episode. But that's kind of the summary rundown of my experiences with Democrats. Oh, and by the way, on top of that too, I started my adult life at age 20 with a false accusation as well. So, I've had my fair share. I've had my fair share of beatdowns from people who are in pain, and I've always done my best to truly keep my composure during all of it for the last 10 years of my life. So I want to get into the definition of liberalism. Let me pull it up right over here. All righty. Liberalism. Willingness to respect or accept behavior or opinions different from one's own. Openness to new ideas. Man, this is not what the people who call themselves liberals today are like at all. Again, some of them who lean more left and maybe more politically moderate still enjoy common sense and openness and probably fit this definition. In fact, I fit that definition of liberalism. I'm very open-minded. I love learning new things. I love having healthy discussions with people of opposite belief systems so I can learn something. So based on that definition alone, even though I label myself as conservative, I technically am a liberal. And I know a lot of conservative men out there who do a lot of phenomenal work in this coaching space and in the spiritual space, who label themselves as conservative as well, who I would say fit that definition of liberalism. But this definition is nothing, and I mean nothing, close to what a left-leaning person, or I'm not even going to say left-leaning person, someone who identifies themselves as left is like at all today. It's very unfortunate. And this is what I'm saying. It's like, this is a battle of good versus evil. And unfortunately right now, this is a battle between good and evil right now. This is a battle of right versus wrong, but this is not a battle of Democrat versus Republican. This pain, this unprocessed pain, is more dominant for people with democratic beliefs. Why is that? Because the media that is also democratic leaning has targeted these individuals' pain and has used it to turn into anger to attack people with different belief systems. Conservatives, libertarians, even moderates. And I really don't want this episode to turn into shaming liberal ideology, because it's not. But it's to point out the blatant evil. And right now, this time in American history, this energy that is dark and in pain and has a lot of unresolved trauma, like I brought up before, is very, very heavy in the collective culture of those who labeled themselves as liberal or Democrat or left wing. Now, I want to break down why this unresolved pain, this evil that they carry is so damaging. And it is negatively impacting our world and the United States, and what has essentially led to our fellow American Charlie Kirk getting assassinated for sharing his own beliefs. A lot of beliefs that I also agree with, by the way. So there's so many that I can use as an example here. Let's start with the extreme feminist ideologies that happened, or that still are happening in this world. So feminism, modern day feminism, started because of a lot of valid points. There was a lot of sick men out there that were abusing their power on women to get things from them sexually. Truly awful, truly terrible. And what did it lead to? Well, first, it led to the Me Too movement and women voicing a lot of injustices that they deal with on a daily basis, along with the way they're treated in the workplace. It first led with that, and that is completely valid. That is completely fucking valid. But then what did it turn into after that? It turned into them shaming a lot of men, shaming a lot of white men, calling conservatives misogynistic for just existing. I mean, it truly was awful. And what did that lead to? So all that shame, all that guilt tripping, and even like falsely Me Tooing people. A lot of men got falsely Me Too, by the way, including myself 10 years ago. At age 20, with nothing in my name, still a college student, literally just starting adult life. That was my welcome to adulthood experience. What did this lead to? It led to a lot of men living in fear, losing their masculine edge, losing their backbone. They stopped being bold on dates. They stopped approaching women. They stopped being confident and flirtatious around women. They stopped pursuing women, which is terrible for men. That's a huge part of being a man right over there, being able to pursue women boldly. I mean, it's a huge part of confidence. It's a huge part of what I help men heal from today. It forced a lot of men to suppress their sexuality. It forced them to play small and suppress their ability to have power and take up space anywhere they go. And it led to themselves with having not much confidence in who they are, all in fear of being Me Too'd, stepping on someone's toes, getting their reputation ruined, getting fired from their jobs. And that's just one example. Now, there's some other extreme ideologies too, like social injustices around race. A lot of people out there were shamed by being called Nazis, fascists, racists. There couldn't be any open conversation on illegal immigration policies and how it was negatively affecting the communities that we live in as taxpaying citizens. And suddenly, if you only support immigration the legal way, you are a racist, you are a Nazi, you are a piece of shit. Can't talk about that in public because, oh, God forbid, they would call the HR department at our jobs and get us fired, get our reputation ruined online. No open discussions on the complexity of reproductive rights. Oh, you're either anti-abortion or pro-abortion. There was no conversation for people to speak about the in-betweens, the nuance of it. Because life really is nuance. It's not so black and white that social media and all these ideologies make us believe it is. Life has a lot more nuances. And if you aren't pro-abortion, suddenly you're a terrible human being. And again, the same consequences that I listed earlier. If you disagree with them, you could be getting in trouble with your job. And look, the liberals did a very good job taking power of this. You know, like a lot of companies were very pro-woke for a while. A lot of companies would protect that image because they also didn't want to be called racist. So people could still be doing business with them. They don't want to be known as being anti-exclusive, I should say, to certain groups of people over a misunderstanding. So they played along. They got bought out of fear. And that's really like another thing that I want to address as well. I don't really think many people loved this woke ideology that was going on during the time that it did. I think people feared it. And that's why they played into it. They didn't love the ideology. They feared the ideology because the ideology had so much power, had so much dominance over people's ability to feel free in their own expression. And when I say free of their own expression and suppressing that, I don't mean like actual Nazis, actual racists. I mean people, normal everyday people like you and me, who understand that a lot of these issues are more complex than just calling someone racist or not. You see, when you put that level of suppression over groups of people, it does not end well. It does not end well. People don't like to be controlled by fear, plain and simple. So those are just a few examples that I gave. But there's so many more that we can talk about here. And maybe there's some more that I'll even bring up on future episodes. And the name calling. You know, the name calling wasn't just silly name calling. They use words, again, like Nazi, racist, fascist, misogynistic, homophobe. And unfortunately, when you label a group of people who look a certain way as Nazis, believe it or not, people are actually going to fucking think that these people are Nazis. And what happens when you actually believe that someone is a real threat or a real enemy? Violence happens. And that's why we've seen so much fucking violence happening with people who, again, not all liberals, but a lot of people who lean liberal have acted very violently over the past 10 years. Because they, in their perspective, in their mind, they truly believe that having an opinion opposite of theirs makes you a Nazi, makes you a racist, makes you a fascist. And these ideas aren't even their own, man. They allow the media to brainwash them and use their insecurities for the injustices that they've been through in their life as a right to feel angry, as a form, as a social acceptance, a social excuse to verbally, emotionally, and physically attack others. And this is a lot of the violence we've been seeing left-leaning people do for a while now. And again, I'm not saying all Democrats are bad, but there is this very strong evil, again, evil, unprocessed pain that is socially accepted in that crowd, in that group think. Over the past 10 years, this has had led up to a lot of people who label themselves liberal. They don't really stand for anything meaningful at all anymore. And it's become a party of hate, anger, emotional reactivity to anything that Trump does, anything that a conservative says, anything that goes against Republican values. It doesn't matter what they are doing or not doing. They just want to react hatefully and support whatever goes against Trump is doing. The media knows this sells, so they continue to deliver things in a way for them that gets them angry because it makes them money. It gives them attention. They profit off of it. And who gets hurt in the end of the day? The mental health of normal American citizens. And look, I don't even agree with every single Republican topic out there in the world. But guess what? That's politics. That's life. That's part of the luxury of living in America. If you can't deal with that truth, you need to take a good look at yourself in the mirror and undo those pains, those evils that lie within yourself. Because this ongoing rhetoric that anyone who isn't on board with a certain narrative is racist, fascist, misogynistic, or a Nazi has literally led to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk opened up a pathway for intellectual and respectful debates to happen in our nation again after being silenced by the left for so long. For conversations to happen again in our country that need to be had again at a mature level. We need to start really bringing back the adults into this political space again. America doesn't have time for emotional reactivity and name calling at this point with where we're at. We really don't have time for that bullshit anymore. We need to have the politicians and people who voice their opinions on what's going on in the world behave like adults again. You may be a liberal that's listening to this show right now. You may be a conservative. You may be a moderate. I want to make one thing clear. I do not hate liberals. I really don't. I have a lot of compassion for them. Plain and simple. I have a lot of compassion for them. I feel bad for them. I forgive them for what they do not understand. I forgive them for allowing themselves to let the media feed into their insecurities so much. I truly forgive them that this corrupt system has given them social permission to ruthlessly attack anyone who disagrees with them in the name of defending ideas that are not even their own. I forgive them that the system has openly pushed narratives on them that they are weak, broken, born in the wrong body, and has medicated them through the pharmaceutical companies to take, quote unquote, take away physical sicknesses and ailments that live in their mind and body and not truly healing them from the root cause, because the media, the Democrats are literally putting these diseases into them, mental diseases and physical diseases, and are just medicating them because they profit off of it. This is all happening on purpose, guys. From the food that we consume with all the toxic chemicals in them, from the ideas that we consume that lower our mental health, and then we got to get medication so we can, quote unquote, improve our mental health. And when a gentleman like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. comes along to shine light on these things and to work on healing chronic illnesses, he's labeled as a conspiracy theorist for simply spreading awareness to the toxic chemicals they're putting in our food. I do not understand how someone who is concerned for the health of our country can be labeled a conspiracy theorist. It's common sense. You're putting chemicals in the food and we're consuming it. Our bodies are going to get inflamed because of that. Like, God, I can go on this topic alone for a while. It's just like, it's common sense, man. There's no conspiracy going on here. Look, I forgive. That's hard for me to forgive, but I do forgive the healthcare system and Obama for signing deals with each other so they can push Obamacare to the mainstream public only for pharmaceuticals to profit off of Obamacare. Pharmaceuticals told Obama, I don't know what Obama's intentions were with Obamacare. I can't speak for that. I'm not knowledgeable enough on that. But what I am knowledgeable enough to know, to share with you, that has been talked about before on many other shows, is that in order for Obamacare to have been spread, he had to sign the deal with the devil, the pharmaceutical companies. And they put they put chemicals in the food that make you sick. They put ideas in your mind that make you mentally ill. You go to the doctor, you get your medication. They treat you because they profit off of treatment, so you can continue to depend on the healthcare system. So yeah, healthcare is more accessible more than ever, but it's fucking broken. And yes, it is linked to the Democratic Party at this time in history. At this time in history. Key word there. Key phrase there, because I'm not saying Democrats are bad, but right now, in this time of history, the Democratic Party is linked to a lot of collective evil energy that is going on in the Western world and that is most importantly going on in our country, the United States of America. I also forgive the Massachusetts school systems and a lot of other school systems out there, not just Massachusetts, but a lot of them, especially the town that I grew up in, Boxborough, Massachusetts, really well known for their competitive educational system to prep you for college. I forgive them. You know why I forgive them? Because currently In the elementary schools there, the ones that I grew up in, they're telling little kids they're born in the wrong body and need to change their gender because they simply walk differently, talk differently, and strive for different ambitions in life that go against the narrative of how a woman or a man should be. And instead of encouraging these kids to just be themselves and strive for whatever expression that they want to create in this world, that's how it was when I was growing up. That is like healthy liberalism right there. If we're going off the ideology of liberalism. Okay, you're a man and you talk like this a little bit. That's okay, talk like that. You're a woman, you want a career, beautiful, go have a career. That's healthy. But to say because you're a woman with maybe more masculine energy, or if you're a man with a little bit more feminine energy in certain ways, and you gotta fucking chop your nuts off and have a vagina in there, that is disgusting, especially to little kids. None of that is good. None of that is beautiful. That is evil. And guess what? These surgeons are making all the fucking money, baby. They're making all the fucking money from that. And these kids get way more health issues and mental health issues for changing their gender before their bodies and their minds are fully developed. Can you believe how disgusting that is? I really want you to just pause with that and just really feel that level of disgust. That you can change your gender before you even learn multiplication and division. Ugh, it's terrible. This is evil, guys. This is evil. And I forgive all the angry liberals who do not know any better, who try to silence people who want to talk about these things, who try to silence me, who try to silence my brothers, my friends, the ones who walk the path of God, that I know speak their truth from kindness and love in their hearts without having to label anyone, cancel anyone, or tear down anybody and give them labels and be mean to them because of opposing beliefs. God, I forgive this collective energy of ideas and groupthink for a lot of fucked up criminal activity. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, this spiritual warfare we have now entered can only be held by this leadership of love and forgiveness. And if you are a man or a woman listening to this episode right now, I want to praise you for doing the inner work. I want to praise you for doing the spiritual work. I want to praise you for working on yourself and getting healthy over the past 5-10 years. I want to praise you for getting into self-development and learning how to become self-governed, because the Creator, God, higher power, consciousness, is now giving us permission more than ever to have a backbone and spread the word with loving kindness, but now with strength in that love and in that kindness as well, in our voices, compassion in our souls, but strong in how we hold ourselves, and love in our hearts to make the America we grew up in a better place for all people to live in again. Some of you are probably very angry with what's going on in the world. Some of you are probably very angry with what happened this week to Charlie Kirk. This anger is righteous. Do not question it. But do not react either. Keep your composure. Do not continue the mistakes that the left has made from what they did when they were in power, to prey on people, to get them kicked out of their jobs. No. Once we clean up this mess, we're not going to lower ourselves to that level. No. Become the better person and speak up for what is right. I know those of you very well who are on the path of raising your level of consciousness and spreading your light in the world. You got very, very empathetic hearts. You're very kind people. You're very good people. I know you guys very well. Whether you've been a student in my programs, whether I've connected with you in real life or on social media, you're very good people. You're very, very good people, but have a fucking backbone. You need to have boundaries for yourself and for those around you. Because your blessings without boundaries can only bring in room for burdens. We're very blessed to live in a country that legally positions us in a way to be able to have free speech and speak up against what is evil. We're very blessed. I want to remind you guys that we are very fucking blessed. But now we must rise up together and have a backbone again to create boundaries, to not allow those burdens to come back into our nation and in the Western world again. Once our work here is finished and complete, we got to have boundaries to not let this shit ever happen again. And look, I'm not even going to promote the Divine Alchemy Brotherhood on this podcast. I know I usually do on these episodes. But this episode isn't about my coaching programs. Charlie, this episode is for you. You've paved the way. You've spread the word to so many young people in this nation who need it the fucking most right now. And now it's time for us to not only just wake up, but to speak about what's right, to take full ownership of our power and to bring the message of healing into the world and to spread love on all this hate and evil and just awful, terrible things that is spreading in our country. The corruption that has been labeled as the woke movement for the last 10 years. It's time to do what is right. As men and women in the Western world, we got to bring back truth. We got to bring back peace into our nation. And this gift of true healing is not going down without a fight. Don't be afraid of your belief systems creating a collision, because every time you bring impact into this world, it will be followed by collision. That collision is your knowing that you're doing the right thing. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Rest in peace. You are loved by so many, and we will continue to bring back the values that make America a healthy place for all of us to live in. And finally, end the evils and the corruption that is going on in the world today. Don't be afraid of coming off a little bit too radical moving forward, because right now is the time your voice, your opinions, and your inherent knowing of what is truly right must come out. Thank you for listening.